training? Oh, yeah. Sure.
So today we have something different. You know, it's almost Rosh Hashanah. We Ashkenazim started saying Slichas today. And first of all, I need to apologize. There's a car waiting outside to take me to Shah Binyamin. So I'm a bit late. And therefore today's shir will be somewhat of an abbreviated version. And first of all, I'll try to talk faster. And and the topic we will be discussing is somewhat of a preparation to Rosh Hashanah and to the mitzvah of Tkiyas Shofar. I do hope to give an additional shir before this man is over, and maybe in Even Ezer. But today, almost all the shiurim I've been giving in this period are about the Yomim Neroim. So in every machzer, between Tashrat, Tashat, Tarat, and Tkiyas Yushev, there's a Yehi Ratzoin and something to say. Shulchan Aruch writes in Tov Kuf Tzadik Weiss, Lo yasiach, lo atakev lo atzibur ben Tkiyas Yushev le Tkiyas Me'omad. Mishnah Brura, Sivkot Yud Beis, writes, you cannot talk because it's a hefsek. Primarily, in the middle of the Tkiyas Yushev, because in Rosh Hashanah Lamed Rebbe was Mosaken Tashat, because the Rambam writes in Perek Gimel of Hilchos Shofar, we don't know what Truah is. Is it Genuch Gonach? Is it Yilul Yolol? And therefore, maybe it's what we call Shvorim. Maybe it's what we call Truah, and maybe it's both together. That's why we do Tashat Tarat. So if you're going to be mafsik b'dibur, then you're mafsik between the brocha and the mitzvah. Therefore, Kusav the Mishnah Brura Sivkot Yud Beis. Lechein lo yoymar hayehi rotzen anitvas b'machzorim ben tkiyas the miyushav rak yaharar belibay v'lo yotzi b'piv o sheyoyme yiratzon achar gemarat kiyas. And this is what he quotes from Derech HaChaim. You all know who is the Derech HaChaim. That's the Nesivis HaMishpat. His Sefer Piskei Halacha and Shulchan Aruch Chaim is Derech HaChaim. In Shatzi and Sivkot Tezvov, he writes, Das HaGoen, Rabbi Yankev Emden, Besidur Lahokel. And therefore, B'mukim Shenoegen Ken, Ein Lim Choiz B'yodom. Because Rabbi Yankev Emden does write. I once made a mistake. And I desperately called my son-in-law, Rabbi Nish, is this printed already? And he said, no, it's not printed, so I calmed down. Because I didn't make a mistake. And I said that the Mishnah Brura is wrong. Because in the Siddur of Rabbi Yankev Emden, we do find Oimrim Balachash, the Yehi Ratzoin. But the Mishnah Brura wasn't aware that many things in the Emden Siddur are not from Rabbi Yankev Emden. The publisher put in all kind of things, Bein Hashar, L'Shem Yehud, and Rabbi Yankev Emden writes in his Akdoma that his father was adamantly against L'Shem Yehud, like the Noida B'Yehuda. And a few years ago, they printed the original Emden Siddur, and there is no L'Shem Yehud in there. So I said the Mishnah Brura thought that everything that's written in the Emden Siddur is from Rabbi Yankev Emden and Lav Davka. And if the Mishnah Brura would know that it's not from Rabbi Yankev Emden, he wouldn't write this. And recently I realized I was wrong, because at the end of Hilchos Shofar, which Rabbi Yankev Emden did write, not in Seder HaTekiyos between Tashrat and Tashat and Tarat, in the Halachas, Nitzos Zayin, Os Chovav, Rabbi Yankev Emden writes, Ha'ari hoyu mizvade balachash vein hazdorim. But I wonder, why does the Mishnah Brura quote Rabbi Yankov ending in a siddur when it's a Mogen Avraham. Mogen Avraham Tov Kuf Pei Dalet Sif Kotten Beis. The Mogen Avraham says that it's Shlo, Hoyu Misvada Balachash, and therefore that is what one should do. She is Vada Balachash. So Mogen Avraham Tov Kuf Pei Dalet Sif Kotten Beis. Rabbi Yankov says that was the meaning of the Ari. The Mogen Avraham writes the meaning of the Shlo, but the Tzad Shova, the common denominator is both say it is legitimate and it is what one should do. So this seems to be a machlekes. The Mogen Avraham says that was the meaning of the Shlo, Rabbi Yankov the meaning of the Ari. Shulchan Aruch Harav also says Yizvada Balachash. Mishnah Berurah quotes the Nesivos, Derech HaChaim. We have today psukim and takonos of Akiva Eiger when there was a cholera outbreak almost 200 years ago, and Rabbi Akiva Eiger wrote psukim and takonos, and it's written there that he also said you should not say Yehirotz in the middle of the Tkiyas because it's a hefsek. Maserav ois reish vov, the Gaon didn't say Yehirotzim, but not because hefsek. The Gaon says we don't need to say anything before Tkiyas Shofar. Not the Lamnat Sech Mizmar David, and not nothing. So the Gaon has nothing to do with our discussion. So there is somewhat of a controversy. What's printed in the Machzorim, the Yehirotzoin, should you say that? Or the Mishnah Berurah quoting the Nesivos and the same as the Bekivegi, you just think. Beliboy. Lo yoytzi b'svosav because it's a chashash hefsek. And therefore one should not say. But the Mogen Avraham and Rabbi Yankov Emden and Shulchan Aruch Harav say, Yizvada Balachash. You could say Yehirotzim Balachash. Lecha oire, it depends how we understand Itkin Rebavu B'Kisrin Tashrat Tashatarat. And there are three different interpretations, three different shows. The Rambam Perigim on Chashoifa writes, if we have a Rambam, we could quote his Loshen, that Berevois hayomim va'oirech hagolus, we forgot what the truah is, and we don't know whether it's genich hagonach, the shvorim, or the truah, or maybe both of them together, and that is why we do tashrat, tashat, tarat. So the Rambam clearly says it's a suffix. The Rif quotes of Haigon, no suffix at all. And the truah could either be shvorim or the truah, or both together, but there were different minhagim in different places. V'Torah nir et kishtei Torahs. So the Bavur just wanted everybody to be on the same page and to do the same thing. Such an important and central and significant mitzvah that Kiyah Shofar. The Bavur thought it's a, in Yiddish there's an expression which probably you're familiar with. Sepasnish. Yeah? You know what that means? Sepasnish. It's not appropriate. It doesn't look right that in every shul, in every city, they're going to do different type of Kiyah Shofar. And therefore, to bring all the minhagim together, and everybody should be on the same page. Rabbi Bo understood, we cannot convince a shul that for 200 years was doing truah, stop doing truah and start doing shvorim. And therefore, he combined all the three minhagim. But a person is yoitza with any of the three. So according to Rav Goem, it's not such a big problem being misvada balachash between Tashrat, Tashat, and Tarat. You were already yoitza. What's the big deal? But according to the Rambam, it might be a hefsek between the brocha and the mitzvah, because you're saying something that doesn't really belong to the tkiyas. Then one would ask, but then the tashrat would be a hefsek before the tarat. No. Anything you do directly, letzorech hatkiyas, would never be considered a hefsek. But saying tefillas and yirots and vidui would be a hefsek. There's a third approach, and that is the Zohar, which is somewhat confusing. And here we come to a discussion between two great Gedolim, Rav Elyashiv and Rav Ovadia Yosef. First volume, Yabia Omer, Chelek Aleph Siman Lamed Vav. Rav Ovadia writes a tshuva that is about 1 kilometer long, like most of his tshuvas. And he writes, one should not say anything between the tkiyas like the Nesivus and Rebbe Kiva Eger. They're right. Because of a Chashash Hefsek. And Rebbe Vadia writes a spark of genius. So the Nesivus and those that say one should not say, how would they explain the minig of the Ari and the Shlo? He says something very sensible. The Ari and the Shlo were both Mekubolim. V'chol Divreim Divrei Kabbalah. So their minig was based on the Zohar. Zohar in Pashas Pinchas says, it's not either Tashrat or Tarat. It's the combination of all three. And all three are important. Lematek is adinim. To turn din into rachamim, we need Tashrat plus Tarat. So according to the Zohar, there's a difference when you make a hefsek after you start the mitzvah, or you make a hefsek between the brocha and the mitzvah. If you make a hefsek between birchas matzah and achilas matzah, it's a brocha v'torah, you need to say the brocha again. If you start eating matzah and you talked out, you don't need to say the brocha again, even though you're not yoytzah till you finish it, because I stuck like achilas pass. So the ri and the shlo, being mikabolim, the kol maseim divrei kabbalah, their minig was based on the Zohar. According to the Zohar, if you did Tashrat, you're already in the middle of the mitzvah. So there are two approaches, two different interpretations of the Zohar. Is the Pshat in Zohar that you need all three, and you're not really Mekayim the mitzvah till you finish Tashrat, Tarat? Or is it more similar to Rav Hai Gaon? You need all three, that's just L'Ravcha the Milsa, but you're Yotzu with either one of the three. Benkach u Benkach, we have an explanation why the Ri and the Shlo were Mizvah Balachash. Because according to Rav Hai Gaon, shouldn't be a problem at all. And even according to the other interpretation, after all, a hefsek be'emtza kiyum mitzvah is not chomer like a hefsek between the brocha and the mitzvah. And the vidui and the yerotzon are associated with the tkiyas. At the end of the day, it's not like just starting to talk about your einiklach in the middle of the tkiyas. So that's Rav Ovadia's argument, and therefore he says the halacha is like the Nesivus, because we don't base our minhagam on Kabbalah. Our derech is the Rambam. It's a Sofa Gomer. So if you say the Erotzon after Tashat, maybe you say you're mafsik between the brocha and the mitzvah, and you can't do that. So in Shuvas, Kovitz Shuvas Tavel Yosef, Chelek Av Siman Samach, there's a letter, and for some reason they omitted who the recipient of the letter was. It's not written that the letter was written to Rav Ovadia. So how do we know? Because in Chelek Gimel of Yaviyah, there's the response of Rav Ovadia to Rav Yosef. And it's exactly what we find in Kovitz Shuvas. So Rav Yosef argues. But after all, the Mogen Avraham and Rabbi Yankov Emden called this minhag. So obviously, in their opinion, it doesn't contradict halacha. Yes, that goes without saying. I think Rav Ovadia just wants to explain. We need to explain, according to the Nesivus, how would the Nesivus explain what that Ri and the Shlo did? He didn't mean to throw the Mogen Avraham out of the window. We have the Mogen Avraham and Rabbi Yankov Emden on one side, Rebbe Kiva Eger and the Nesivus on the other side. So, common sense would say, you could be misvada in your heart. You know, you don't need the Hirotzon, you could say in your heart. Why go into a chashash hefsek when it's a machlokes in the poskim? All the Abiyah Omer tried to explain is, after all, if the Nesiva says it's wrong, how would he explain the Ari and the Shlo? Why did they do this? And I think that's a very sensible explanation, because according to the Zohar, it's not a problem. So this is a very interesting discussion. And then Rav Yosef quotes the Kiryas Sefer, which is interesting. The Kiryas Sefer says, Tashrat. What is the problem with Tashrat? Why aren't we yoytze with Tashrat? The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah Lamed, because if the Truah of the Torah is only Shvorim or only Truah, then Tashrat would be a hefsek. the Shvorim is a hefsek between Tkiya Rishoina and the Truah. And if the Shvorim are the proper Truah, then the Truah would be a hefsek between the Shvorim and the Tkiya Achroina. So the Kirya Sefer says, but the din of hefsek is only the Rabbonin, it's not a Diuraisa. So therefore, says Aval Yoshiv, it's only midrabanon, then it's not such a big problem, the hefsek. First, that is a problem. Midrabanon, you're not yoitzik. But Rav Avadi comes up with another argument in the second shuva. Even if the hefsek is the rabbanon, avala achar shetiken rebavu tashrat tashat tarat, a person is machaven to be yoitza with one out of the three. He doesn't want to be yoitza b'di'eved. He doesn't want to be yoitza with tashrat. He prefers. Anyway, we're doing tashrat tarat. So he prefers to be yoitza with a one of the three that is proper even according to Chachamim. So we come back to square one. So once again, it might be a hefsek between the brocha and kiyum mitzvah. And I think that's a very powerful argument. So this is a very interesting discussion. Aloha lamaisa. Rav Yosef writes in this tshuva, because there are rivervois chasidim that do say the hirotzain, ein limchois. I'm a chosid. I'm not aware that there are rivervois chasidim. I think that in Vishnitz they do say, but I'm not sure. But most chasidim don't say. I think everybody I know acts according to the Mishnah Berurah. However, Rav Yosef is right in that point. The Mishnah Berurah writes, ein limchois. After all, it's a Mugan Avrohom. Mugan Avrohom is the place we all rely on. It's a Bianca Vende. The proper minig is like the Mishnah Berurah writes. Why get into a chashash of sveikis if there are those that minag avisayim biyadeya, ein limchois, like the Mishnah Berurah writes in Sharatzi. What do we need to bear in mind by the Tkiyah? So the Kabbalah have tons of kavanas. So let me share with you a kotz kavort. You need to be aware. Do you know anything about kotz b'shischa? You guys don't look like Hasidic guys.
Very sharp.
Yeah, but you know, emes. Don't fool others, and even more important, don't fool yourself. So there's a sefer Siyach Sarfi Kodesh, Sharfe Vertlach, of Rabbunim b'shischa and Ramendele Mekotz. And it's written there that someone asked Rabbunim b'shischa, which kavonas do you need to be mechaven, the Baal Makra and the Baal Tekeya, when you blow the shofar? And Rabbunim said, in every machzer between Tashrat, Tashat, and Tarat, it's written Shin Beis. Did you realize that? So any machzer you take, after Tashrat, Shin Beis, after Tashat, Shin Beis. So Rabbunim said, you know what Shin Beis means? It's Rosh Tevis. Shoita, blues. In English, idiot, blow. So the Gemara says in Lashon Daf Zayin, lo metoiken, and the Gemara says, lo metoiken, rachmana meteka, shoita, blues. Rachmana meteka. That's what the Rabbunim said. Wow. No, that's too sharp. But that's b'shischa. That's kusk. Verdreinisch kan cup. You know, what are you faking? Blows. Have in mind, lahala zichron yisrael afei yashiv yishamayim. We blow because the Kodesh Baruch wants us to blow. We blow because we want to do tshuva. So that's what he said, Sheba. What does Shin Beis mean? That is even more interesting. In Menhoga Varmaiza, which goes back hundreds of years, it's a very reliable sefer, and in Menhoga Frankfurt, they explain it's only in Tkiyas the Miyushav. The Baal Makra says to the Baal Tekeya after every Seder, sit, rest, take some deep breaths. It always fascinates me. Today, professional Baalei Tekeya, it's not stressful at all. You don't need to make an effort. If you know how to blow and you have a proper shofar, it's very easy. It's like blowing a whistle. But in Sifra Kabbalah, it's written that the Baal Tekeya becomes red, and that's Mabatul Dinim. So, in Menhoga Varmaize, after every Seder, the Baal Makra told the Baal Tekeya, You could rest, sit, which is interesting. That's not a hefsek. He tells him shave. Tzorech Hatkiyas. Tzorech Hatkiyas is not a hefsek. So Rabbunim Epeshuscha came up with a new pshat in Shin Beis. So there's a famous story about the Baal Shem Tov. Shchodesh Elul, the Baal Shem Tov went to record one of his Talmidim, Reb Wolf Kitches, and he told him, this year I want you to be my Baal Tekeya. And Reb Wolf was so moved and so proud that of all the Talmidim, the Baal Shem Tov chose him to be his Baal Tekeya. And every day, in the morning after he went to the mikveh, they learned Kavanas Tkiyas. And the Baal Shem Tov taught him the various different Kavanas. Comes Rosh Hashanah in the morning, and the Wolf gets up, and to his horror, he remembers nothing. Remembers nothing. Everything just escaped. And he's contemplating, broken-hearted. Probably I need to tell the Rebbe that I don't know anything, that he wasted his time. But how could I break his heart? But if I don't tell him, won't he realize in the first tkiyah, these are empty tkiyahs. Tkiyahs that mean nothing. Won't he feel that these are tkiyahs without kavanas, that he doesn't know what to do, and he's contemplating back and forth? He still didn't decide, and suddenly the Baal Shem Tov cries out, Lama natzeach libnei koirech mizmor, missed the boat. It's too late. After 7 times the Menatzeach, the Baal Shem Tov talks to the community, and he says, Rayud beis sha'orim b'shamayim. And the key to each and every shar is another set of kavanas, of tkiyas soif. And the kavanas are meant to open up sharei shamayim, sharei tfilo, sharei tchino, sharei demois. But there's one master key that opens up all the various different sharim. And that master key is Shivroin Levov, is a broken heart. And that is the master key that opens up all the sharim. And if you had that key, you need nothing else. So Rav Wolf understood that this was the way it had to be. And with his broken heart, he was the Baal Shem Tov's Baal Makar. And obviously, I think at the end of the story, the Baal Shem Tov was happy. So, that's the most important kavanah. The most important kavanah is the Rambam in Perek Gimel of Hilchos Tshuva. Afal pishet ki yeshoife b'Rosh Hashanah gzeres hakosav remez yesh bo kaloimar uru yeshene mishenasa. So one of the reasons I like the Shab Sefrenkel Rambam. In all the old Rambams, the lesson of the Rambam is uru yeshene mishenasa. But in the real Nusach, it's written twice uru. When you write halachas, you never will write the same word twice. This is not just the halach. It is as if the Rambam is sitting here, standing up at the Rosh Kodesh and giving it the Rosh. Uru, Yesheni Mishanasa. Wake up from your slumber. That's the tekon. That is the kavanah. That is the kavanah everybody needs to bear in mind. Uru, Yesheni Mishanasa min Adamim. Hakitzum et Ardamaschem, Chipsu b'Meseichem, Chizu b'Tchiva b'Sichro b'Reichem. Ela Shoichem emes behevel Asman, B'Shoyim kol shenosem behevel b'Rik shel Hayoyel v'Shayatzim. Habitu lenafshiseichem, Itivu drachechem umar aleichem. V'yazov kol achad mekem es darkei roves machshavta shelo yichem. So the Rambam is giving it Rosh. And a Mourin Avuchim, Chelek Gimel Perek Mem Gimel. The Rambam writes, Chelek Gimel Mourin Avuchim is dedicated almost entirely to Tamei Mitzvahs, and he explains the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah. Laheir Yisrael Mishechachusam, it's just to awaken us, and that's what Shofar is about. And that is the basic kavanah that the Baal Makra needs to have, and the Baal Taken needs to have, and everybody that's Makayim the Mitzvah needs to have. Uru, Uru, Yesheni Mishnatchem. So the Rambam writes this not in Hilchas Shofar, but rather in Hilchas Tshuva. And then there's an amazing grid for in Rosh Hashanah Lamed Daled. And there it writes, why is the Nusach HaBrucha L'Shmoa Kol Shofar? And how do we know that the mitzvah is Shmiya and not Tkiya? So the Ritva explains, what is the Shofar all about? To awaken us from our sleep, from our slumber. And therefore, the Ikar mitzvah is Shmiya. Listen. So in the car on the way here, Rosh Koilel made a beautiful comment to me, and he said the Mishnah Berurah brings that in some sources the Nusach HaBrucha is L'Shmoa B'Kol Shofar. And according to what we just said, it's a beautiful ha'ora. Tzarich L'Shmoa B'Kolo Shel HaShofar. L'Shmoa B'Kolo means do what he demands. Listen to him and perform what he asks you to do. So it's not only Shmoa Kol Shofar, but L'Shmoa B'Kol Shofar. Don't change the nusach. What we say is L'Shmoa Kol Shofar, but that is what it's all about. So there are kavanas, but the Gemara says, Rachmonim. So Rabbunim Repeshuscha said, Shoita, blow. And bear in mind, this is mitzvah sayom. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked us to do. And we try lahaloi zichron yisrael letoivo, and we're mahala b'tshuva, and that is what it's all about. So let us hope that we will hear b'kol b'yameinu not only kol shofar shel Rosh Hashanah, but also kol shofar shel Mashiach Tzidkeni. Kin soinei sorim tir'u ucheskoya shofar tishmo. We should hear kol shofar shel Mashiach Tzidkenu, and we should hear B'Seiras Toivos and Aksiva B'Chasina Toivos. I might give another shir before Rosh Hashanah, or maybe right after Rosh Hashanah.
Is Roman Kabbalah?
No, please, but I'm on a rush, but you can do it.
Just